last week, I was shocked at the sentiments of Germans towards Angela Merkel. And I was forced to say that this is the exact opposite of what we feel about her in Nigeria and even monitoring cable network. Angela Merkel is very well respected, but because of Merkel's liberal immigration policy that over other countries. It is also an era in which forward-looking countries are contending with climate change. It is an era in which innovation is at the center of economic development. And so we see that the challenge of nation building for Nigeria, if we view it that nation building has an impact in citizens' welfare, in economic development, the challenge is higher now. And yet, the demand for success is even higher for our country to build as a nation, a prosperous nation. What we need in Nigeria is the courage to build our country. The reason Nigeria is not yet a nation is not because of our diversity. In fact, if countries of the world are homogeneous somewhat at creation, I think that we would not even have the term nation building, because it would not be necessary. Because if we go back again to our definition, we will see that it is something that is supposed to be taken for granted. So we are not going to fail in nation building because we are a people of diverse backgrounds and diverse ethnicity. We are supposed to unite and forge a common front for progress in spite of, and indeed because of, our diversity. One of the reasons that we haven't done very well with nation building in Nigeria is that we have had very poor leadership. And more recently, we are seeing that citizens' response to poor leadership of a country is very important. So, the dilemma we face right now is, are we going to surrender the country to poor leadership, divisive leadership, or as a people, we are going to demand and force the country to reorientate, for the leadership to reorientate, and for the country to unite? We don't have any other country, and that is the truth. Talking about courage, it is one huge step of courage for Professor Kingsley Moghalu to step out and say, I want to put myself forward. That would suggest that he will come into the political space. He is a technocrat. But the truth of the matter, and as we know, is this: when we have a poor leadership and the helm of affairs, it doesn't matter if the leadership hires some technocrats at a junior, either as ministers, head of MDAs, what have you. What matters is the control of that lever of politics and power. If you don't have somebody who understands nation building in that position, you can hire whoever as ministers. And we have had very brilliant people in this country. Let us be frank. We have had world-class professionals as ministers since 1999. But the contributions that they can make and the impact they would generate will be muted. A lot of the decisions that affect our lives in Nigeria are not taken in the offices, in the seats of power. They are, as Professor Kingsley Moghalu himself was exposed to. So once, if we go to bed, or perhaps let me return to Brexit very briefly. The reason why we had Brexit, the UK had Brexit was simple. The young people who ordinarily should have majority of the votes and who wanted the UK to remain in the European Union, they failed to come out in good enough number during the referendum to vote. But the older Britons, they felt that their way of life was at stake with uncontrolled immigration. And so they were more motivated. Although they would have been the minority, but they were more motivated to come out to vote because of their fears. But the youth did not come out in good number to vote for their aspirations. And so you find that when the votes were tallied, Brexit won. And the whole country right now is in a quagmire, not even of what might be the consequences of Brexit, but the country is even struggling to come forward with an agreement. And they would not have had to go through this stress if the younger Britons had responded appropriately to the call that was made when they had a referendum. That's what we have been having in Nigeria. That's what has held the country down. And we have to change this. I would like to move to now discuss some of the solutions beyond leadership making itself available, potential leaders making themselves available, and citizens responding appropriately. I now want to talk about some of the cogent solutions that Professor Kingsley Moghalu has been talking about since February this year. He has been moving around the country, engaging in town hall meetings, meeting with Nigerian students, with Nigerian market women, trade associations, and so on and so forth. What he has been talking about. Kingsley Moghalu says that I come prepared, working with like minds and other technocrats to solve Nigeria's nation-building challenges. And I think that we need to hear that quite loud and clear. Some of the big and symbolic policies that he plans to pursue as president are outlined thus. Within 2 years, he planned to have a constitutional restructuring of Nigeria. Now, what is very important to point out is that he is the only person who has, amongst people jostling for presidential power in 2019, to outline very clearly not only what he means by restructuring of the country, but how he's going to do it. And his treatise on restructuring of Nigeria is actually available on the internet, and I do encourage people who are interested, to read it up. These are some of the salient points. He will, working with the National Assembly, return Nigeria to true, and the federating units will not be the states. It will be the political zones, the 6 geopolitical zones. And the reason for this are many, but we may just quickly outline one or two. One, each of the zones